Hey, what's up, y'all? It's N Square Sports back. Today, we're going to be breaking down NFL divisions. The season is close to being underway. It's preseason training camp right now. So, we're going to break down each division. So, this video, we're going to be breaking down the AFC North, starting with the Baltimore Ravens. So, last year, they went 10-6, and they lost in the wild card round of the playoffs at the Los Angeles Chargers. So this year we're gonna give you our floor and ceiling. So floor is the worst we think they could possibly do, and the ceiling is what we think they could do if they played amazing the whole year.
I think this is with the assumption of maybe possibly one or two big injuries, but in general we're assuming general health.
Yeah, like we're not assuming like the Falcons last year, their whole team basically got injured. We're assuming that basically most players are healthy, but
an average of
yeah. So my floor for the Baltimore Ravens this year is 6-10. I think they're probably going to take a step back this year from what they did last year. It all has to do with Lamar Jackson to me and how he is going to develop. They lost a lot of their defensive players also from last year, but I do have their ceiling at 10-6. I think they possibly could do as well as they did last year, but I think they would have to have a couple breaks go their way for that to happen. So Nick, give me your floor and ceiling.
So I have them around 5-6 or 5-11 as the floor, and 10-6 as the ceiling. Pretty much the same as him. Like he pretty much said, it's all based off of Lamar Jackson. I don't think their defense is. It's going to take a major step down, and I don't see them really getting 10-6. I think a more realistic is that 7-9 to 8-8. So the next point we wanted to talk about were players to watch on these teams and whether they're breakouts or free agent signings or just players we want to keep an eye on. And this is a pretty obvious one of Lamar Jackson. I personally think he's going to actually take a step up, but the team will step down. I don't think that the Ravens can rely on the run game solely. I think they're eventually going to be figured out like they were last season. The Chargers did in the playoffs. I don't trust their offensive weapons on the outside, and the tight ends with Hayden Hurst and some others, I don't trust quite yet.
Yeah, so I also have Lamar Jackson. I do think he's going to get better, but I still think I don't know if he's going to take the step he needs to get his team to where they were last year. I just think they lost so many guys on defense that were really key pieces that I just don't know that they'll get to where they were last year. But the one guy they did get on defense is Earl Thomas. He's from Seattle. He got a new extension of 4 years this year. I think he's a player to watch because I think if he can play well and stay healthy, he hasn't played a full season since 2015, so that is not in his favor for him to play the whole season. But if he can, and if he can play well, I think he can be a difference maker. He can get them back to that 10-6 record. So, Nick, you can list our next category is most important games. So, like you go.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk about these are the games that I guess are pretty much going to determine the season and what we can think about the team. So we have some of the biggest games are the Pats on week 9, and I believe that is Thursday night football. It is primetime game. They're home against the Pats. This is going to be a big game, especially right in the middle of the season. It's going to be if they lose this game, I don't think they're really going to have a shot in the playoffs. If they win it, I think that they're going to have a big step up. It's going to be a major turning point in their season. So 2 other games I wanted to point out were at the Chiefs in week 3. They gave them a run for their money last year. Maybe they can do it again this year. But if it's week 3 and they beat the Chiefs, maybe I'm just completely wrong about this team and their ceiling being 10-6. 2 weeks later, they go away to face the Steelers. That's another sort of the same point I had with the Chiefs. If they can keep up with the Steelers, and we'll talk about them a little later, I think they could also be contenders. But quite frankly, when I see these games, I see 3 L's.
Yeah, so I also have the Patriots, I think, week 11 at the Rams. It's another big game, going to LA, going to a Rams team that's going to be motivated after a Super Bowl loss. I think that's going to be a pretty big game right in the middle of the season, so I think that's a big one. And then I have week 17 versus the Steelers. They have a home game versus the Steelers, but as we saw last year, the Steelers and the Browns were both on the bubble to get in to the playoffs at the end, and I think a week 17 game, you could have the Steelers and the Ravens with the same record, and whoever wins goes to the playoffs. That could happen with these two teams, so I think week 17 versus the Steelers is going to be a hugely important game as well. So any other points on the Ravens?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, so we'll go into the Pittsburgh Steelers now and talk about them. Last year, they had a record of 9-6-1, barely missing out on the playoffs. It came down to the last game. They were all watching it to see if they would get in. They barely missed out on it. So this year, I have their floor at 8-8. I think that even with the losses of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, I think they have James Conner, who's a great running back. Probably not everything Le'Veon Bell was, but still a very good running back. And I think more than just the players they have, they're going to be super motivated after missing out last year. They don't have all the drama anymore, and I think that will help them play better. So I think their floor is at 8-8, and I have their ceiling all the way at 12-4. I think if they play their best, they're going to lose a couple games because the Steelers are kind of famous for losing games they shouldn't. So I think there are going to be a couple games that they might just lose. But I think 12-4, if they play really well most of the season, that's their ceiling.
I think I sort of agree with him mostly. We sort of ironically have the same 8-8 and 12-4 floor and ceiling. I promise you that's not the case for any of these videos. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same for only these.
Yeah.
But it's sort of the same case he made. They're famous for messing up a couple of games. They're just known for that. They also do, they do have less talent whenever you get rid of one of the best wide receivers in the game, and Antonio Brown. They really only have Juju. So I'll lead that into my next point is the players to watch is Juju Smith-Schuster. How well is he going to handle these 16 games when it's really just him? You're going to see other two players to watch is James Washington and Dante Moncrief. Can they step up to that plate and be enough to really compensate for the loss of AB? If they can, the Steelers are going to be just fine. If they can't, I could see them having some offensive struggles, but Big Ben is a great quarterback, and I'd say elite in making wide receivers better.
Yeah.
On the defensive side, I'd like to watch Terrell Edmonds, see him develop. He sort of started off slow last year and started picking up steam. I think he could, if he grows just a little bit more, I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to put Terrell Edmonds in this. I did not, but I think he's kind of a wild card in the players to watch for me. I have Juju as well. I think, can he take the number one receiver role? He looked pretty good last year. He had games where he was better than AB last year. So can he do that, be that number one guy that AB was? So that's going to be a question mark. And then I have another guy, Devin Bush, the linebacker that the Steelers drafted last year. They moved up in the draft to get him, so they saw something in him, and can he be like Ryan Shazier was a couple of years ago? Can he be that in the box linebacker that really takes over the defense and controls the defense? So I think that'll be interesting to watch. So Nick, give me your important games for the Steelers.
Start off great. Sunday night football game is at the Patriots week 1. That's going to be one really fun game to watch. I'll explain this more, I think, whenever we talk to Patriots in another video, but the Patriots won't have Julian Edelman nor the number one tight end in Benjamin Watson. Those are two major players. And the Patriots are sort of known for starting off a little bit slower. The Chiefs, even last year, they started off a little bit slow. I think that I'd say that without these two players, the Steelers need to capitalize on this game because, quite frankly, these two teams could be trying to fight for that number one seed, and this is going to be big. Just another game is Colts week 9. They're home against the Colts. Colts are also going to probably be fighting for those top 4 seeds. So it's important on that. And then at home against the Browns in week 13. That's a big game, division rivalry. The Browns are going to be fighting for the division spot in week 13. When you're starting to determine where people are going to be in the long run and how they're going to look in the playoffs. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I also have week 1 at the Patriots. I think everybody is going to be watching that game. That's a huge game. The Steelers and the Patriots always go at it, so it's going to be very interesting to watch. I have week 10 versus the Rams. I think that's, I've said it about the Ravens, but I think the Rams is just a team that people have to watch out for because they're going to be good this year as well. So I think that's a big game. And I think, just like I said about the Ravens, I said week 17 versus the Steelers for the Ravens. I say week 17 at the Ravens for the Steelers. I think that's, like I said, in the Ravens part, that they're going to be fighting possibly for a playoff spot. And I think that'll be a big game. So anything else for the Steelers? No.
Good there.
Okay, so we'll move into the Cleveland Browns. They last year they missed out on the playoffs. They went 7-8-1, and I think this year they will go around 7-9. That's my floor for them, and then my ceiling is 10-6. I don't know what to think of the Browns so far. I mean, you see, a couple days ago we saw Baker Mayfield at the Cleveland Indians game chugging beer and thinking he was really cool and everything, and just will he lock in eventually for this team, because Baker Mayfield's going to control a lot of what they do. So I think he needs to, kind of just lock in, and I think they'll be fine if he does that, because they have all the talent in the world around him. That's why I can't really say they're going to be super good, because they can win a lot of games if they all work together. But I have them around probably that 8-8, 9-7 range, probably missing out barely on the playoffs again this year.
I think it's a pretty fair assessment on that. I have them 7-9 and 12-4. I think they have a really high ceiling, and I'm actually quite low on the Browns this year. But you'd be an idiot to deny the fact that team is probably top 5 in talent, with on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's insane, and they got a steal with Greedy Williams, and now they have 2 corners that can play ball. I sort of expect them to go around that 9-7 and 10-6 range, and maybe squeak into the playoffs depending on how the AFC is. But yeah, so players to watch this team. So how Baker Mayfield works with the wide receivers, and I want to talk about Antonio Callaway specifically. I think he'll work fine with OBJ and Jarvis Landry, but I want to see how this wide receiver 3 roll, because if the wide receiver 3 and Antonio Callaway can actually grow and not drop as many balls, I think this team, you're not going to stop this offense. Another player to watch is Duke Johnson. Baker Mayfield has already called Duke Johnson out and saying he needs to ride with the team. But Duke wants out of there. I want to see how they use him the first 8 weeks and how committed he is, because Duke Johnson wants out of there, and that's a known fact. And there has been teams that I believe have reached out to say, we want Duke Johnson. He's a talented running back, but he wants out. And this isn't a player, but this is a coach, is Freddie Kitchens. Baker Mayfield is 0-5 against winning teams with Freddie Kitchens. I want to see Freddie Kitchens show up in coaching and out-coach a team. So far, haven't seen it last year, but he's still young. Can he control this team? It's going to be crazy. He's someone to watch out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have a player to watch, Jarvis Landry. You said Antonio Callaway. I think Jarvis Landry, how he did play with Odell in college at LSU, but this is different. It's kind of like the Russell Westbrook-Harden comparison in the NBA. Like, they played together before. Can they do it again? I think if Jarvis Landry can just coexist with OBJ, I think that's going to be a great duo to watch. They're kind of similar players, so I just want to watch him this year to see how well he fits with Odell. And then my other player to watch is Greedy Williams. Like you said, he was a steal draft pick. With Denzel Ward being a crazy good corner already with Greedy Williams, if he can make that step, but he hasn't even played in the NFL yet. But if he can take even just a little step to be that number 2 cornerback, it's going to be kind of like the Jaguars were a couple years ago with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye. I think it could be a crazy two-headed monster at wide receiver and cornerback. So this team has a ton of talent. We just need to watch to see how they coexist together.
It's all in that coaching staff. So some of the games to watch is at the Patriots Week 8. That's a Sunday night football game. They're making the Browns go in prime time this year, and quite a lot of games, whether I like it or not. But the Patriots, we're gonna see if they're really contenders this game. I mean, this is right in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
They should be firing on all cylinders here. Can this team beat one of the greatest coach of all time? And can Freddie Kitchens outsmart or even just these players outplay Belichick's mind?
Yeah.
Another thing is the Rams, week 3. This is just going to be an early tell of where this team is and how they're at, because we're going to learn quickly what this team is. This is not a team that we're going to be figuring out like towards the end of the season.
Yeah, so I think the Ravens in week 4 is a game to watch. I think at Baltimore is never an easy place to play. So I think that's a game that you need to watch for the Browns division game. Week 8 versus at the Patriots, I agree with you. And then week 13 at the Steelers is another one. At Pittsburgh that's always a tough place to play as well, and that'll be kind of towards playoff seeding points. Both teams are going to need it, so I think that's a big game.
It's going to be a fun game to watch, too.
Yeah,
it's always fun.
It will be. So let's move in now to the Cincinnati Bengals, the last team in the division. Last year they went 6-10 and did not make the playoffs. I think, again, they will miss out on the playoffs. I think this is just a team in the division that just doesn't really have what it takes. So I think their floor is 4-12, and their ceiling is only 7-9. I can't even see them winning more than 7 games. Like I literally tried to say, oh, they could beat this team. Well, I just don't think they can. So I have their ceiling at 7-9.
Yeah, I mean, the ceiling is the best possible scenario, and quite frankly, I mean, my ceiling for them was 7-9. My floor was 1-15. I think that's really easily possible. This team it's not that talented, and if they're going to be 2 to 4 weeks out with AJ Green, that's a couple more losses on games that they probably could win.
Yeah.
I expect this team to be 2-14, probably fighting for those top 3, or probably more 3-13, 4-12, but they're going to be fighting for that number 1 or that number 1 draft pick. Yeah. Some players to watch are going to be Jesse Bates. He was one of the top rookie safeties last year, and really one of the only players that are good on that defense besides the defensive tackle Geno Atkins. And some other players to watch in the offense is Auden Tate, wide receiver. I think he had potential at Florida State, and he played well in some of the training camps, and there's some talent there. Hopefully he can step up to the number 3. Same thing with John Ross. Hopefully he can make an improvement, because that is a first-round pick. Also, I could see him being a trade target later in the season. Just throwing that out there. And just another quick point is Zach Taylor and how he works with this offense and how he works with this team. Because quite frankly, he could probably give him a couple wins if he's smart enough and can outcoach some teams.
Yeah, so I have Tyler Boyd just basically for the fact that AJ Green's going to be out a couple weeks. I don't think they're beginning first couple games. I think some of the games are winnable. But it's just going to be up to Tyler Boyd if he's going to step up. He just needs to step up for a couple weeks to get a couple wins. And so that's why I want to watch him just in the beginning. And Joe Mixon, he can be really good this year. I think he was decent last year, and I think if he can take another step, he can be. It's hard behind a not great offensive line, but I think if he can, I think they have a chance to at least possibly do better than they did last year. We'll just have to see. So some important games. I'll just go really quick over it. I think week 4 at the Steelers is one. It's always at the Steelers for this whole division. It's a big game. Then week 6 at the Ravens. I think going to the Ravens is a big game. These are all kind of towards the beginning of the year. And if they could just get 1 or 2 of these games here and there, it could cause them to move up a little bit in the division, possibly. Not saying it's going to, but possibly. And then week 8 at the Rams, I think going away to the Rams is, not saying they could beat the Rams necessarily, but it's a big game for them. So
really all I have is week 1, but I think the point that I really want to state is that I know it's the first quarter of the NFL, but the first 4 weeks really are going to determine their season.
Yeah.
If they start off 1-3, I think most people on that team are going to start being like, it's a lost season. And whenever they see the other, the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns are getting all this attention, I think they need to win week 1 if they even want a shot at anything. That's really all I got to say about the Bengals. Best of luck to them.
Yeah, I know. So like and subscribe. We'll hit you with the other divisions soon. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.